Hello everyone. If you didn't just hear, we were recently given information about the custom mystic selection. I'll leave a link to the actual full post about everything that's going on about it. But if I'm not mistaken, the way it works is that there should be or you can target and summon any 4 or 5 star Moonlight heroes that were released within the past 6 months. I think that is a typo. I think they mean like, if they weren't released in the past 6 months, you can release or choose any character that wasn't associated with that. I will very quickly go over the, I guess, like the details as well here, which is like, of course, starting on 2/29, so in about a month, you can summon whichever desired 4 or 5 star Moonlight heroes that you want within, again, I don't think it's within the past 6 months. That's a little bit weird. Historically, Moonlight hero selections are all of them, pretty much, or all of them that haven't been released recently. And so therefore, this is kind of out of the norm. If this is what they end up doing, where it's specifically only the Moonlights released within the past 6 months, that's really awkward, unusual. However, that's not what today's video is really about. Aside from, I guess, like announcing that it's, the banner is here, I just kind of wanted to talk about what my thoughts were for who you should or shouldn't pick for the custom mystic banner. And of course, what character is worth pulling for. And of course, as you can see here, we have a bit of a tier list. There is going to be another tier list that's like specifically for PvP and stuff that's coming out. Well, it was supposed to come out yesterday, and then we got the surprise announcement. But here we are. Long story short, let's take a look first at the S tier, because that's probably what all you guys are here for, right? The characters that are actually worth pulling from the Mystic banners are really unique in a couple ways. Again, you'll see this in the RTA tier list video that I mentioned later, or that I'll be releasing later. But a lot of these characters are gameplay changing. You want to play around these characters in all of its entirety, and a lot of these characters also have usage outside of PvP, which is why I think that a lot of them are here. Mediator Coward comes to mind. He's great for stuff like Guild Wars. In addition to RTA, there are some, I guess, like some teams nowadays that kind of counter him. But besides him, you do have characters like Spectre Tenebria, Briarwitch Assyria, who are also really good in PvP, in addition to PvE. Now, again, some of the placement of things will go up and down based on, like, I guess, just generally how I feel and how worthwhile they are. And again, this isn't really like a specific PvP or PvE exclusive tier list, so this is kind of just how I feel. Again, if you're focused on PvP, I think it's really hard to not consider characters like Bellion, Abyssal Yuffie, Navy Captain Landy, even Death Dealer Ray, just because of how impactful they are. If you saw a couple things floating around right now, not only is Death Dealer Ray really OP, as noted by everyone that plays RTA, essentially, there's even like arena guides. If you don't know, there was an arena guide made by one of the better, or one of like the best arena players, Lucira, who details that there's like a 70% win rate arena comp that just has Death Dealer Ray in it, in addition to some other characters. That being said, again, the S tier is really good. All these characters are really impactful, really good, and worthwhile to pull for. However, I think in terms of like what I would probably recommend everyone get, it's kind of a tie, I would say, at these 3 characters in the front. The rest is kind of unordered, but I think Spectre Tenebria, Briarwitch Assyria, and Conqueror Lilius are a little bit too strong just for what they provide. They can do Hall of Trials, they can, they can do Guild War, they can do Arena, and they're so impactful in it, in addition to, obviously the other PvE stuff, like, I'm blanking, but like Abyss, and doing stuff, like Abyss Floors, I guess. I'm trying to think of the other thing. I had something else cooked up. I apologize. But you get the idea. There's a lot of PvE that you could do with these characters. And I think for me, just having access to that with these 3 characters make them the top of the list. And again, since this isn't just a PvP tier list, I think it is worthwhile prioritizing these 3 characters and then kind of moving down the list. If you have Spectre Tenebria, Briarwitch Assyria, and Conqueror Lilius, start to consider characters like Navy Captain Landy, Abyssal Yuffie, and so on and so forth. Again, though, if you pick anyone from the S tier, no one would blame you. If you are really interested in playing Zeo, it is what it is. Go ahead. It's a great pick. Same thing with Meteor Cowrick, Last Rider Crow, Bellion, etc. Moving along, though, we have the A tier. And the honest to God truth about the A tier is that they are just pretty much supplementary, again, to a lot of the S tiers. You'll hear me use this word supplementary a lot because that's kind of the reason why they're ranked in this specific order. There's the most B characters of any of the categories, specifically because they are the supports to the supports. And the A tier characters are not just supportive characters to the S tier playstyles or S tier playstyle characters. They're kind of the foundation. For a couple of reasons, you'll see like the characters like Faithless Lidica or Ludwig be at the top or at the higher end of A tier. And the reason for this is because stuff like Faithless Lidica Cleave, where you have Faithless Lidica, Sid, Famir, DDR, etc., that doesn't work without her. Same thing with Ludwig, and even if you have a character like Ran or Zio, without Ludwig, the cleave becomes much more difficult, and that is a little bit less so the case with the rest of the A tier characters, but a lot of these characters are just generally overwhelming or cover enough gameplay or have enough gameplay usages or functionalities that they just have to be in the A tier. ML Bologna, again, martial artist Ken, Remnant Violet. Remnant Violet kind of fluctuates up and down. He's like an A tier if you believe in him. He's a B or C tier if you don't. But long story short, a lot of these characters do very well in Guild War. They do very well in Arena. They kind of make your life a lot easier. They're also sometimes usable in other stuff, again, like Hall of Trials, or if you need to do some like weird Advent activities. I think for the most part, though, just because of how good they are in PvP, they're definitely going to be in the A tier. And kind of a special shout out, I guess, would be to Strays here, because Strays could definitely be bottom of A, top of B, especially if you consider, his PvP or his PvE usage, given how good he is. However, just in general, I would say this tier list is a little more focused on stuff like Arena, Guild War, and and RTA. A lot of the Moonlight heroes, admittedly, are not that useful in a lot of PvE situations outside of, again, Guild War and Arena, which a lot of people unironically consider to be PvE. But that being said, Strays is the one kind of special case where even though in RTA right now it's a little difficult to build him because everyone has Holy Sack or everyone has like an insane beefy tank or has anti-crit, he one-shots all the hunts. And that's kind of all I have to say about it. If you want to one-shot hunts or clear hunts faster, that is your guy, and that's pretty much why he's up here. That being said, though, again, a lot of the characteristics of the A tier are definitely not seen in the S tier because, again, you can't really first pick, like, a Ludwig. You can't really... Well, you can kind of first pick Faithless Lidica, but she's a little more difficult to build, which is why I've lowered it a little bit. Martial Artist Ken, also a little bit more difficult to build, and honestly, if you just pick Martial Artist Ken, you're probably going to get stunned, or someone's going to pick something like, I don't know, Spectre Tenebria, and you can't really play the game anymore. That's why, even though they're really good and they're really, really exceptional in their niches, they're still in A. Moving along, we have the B tier, and like I mentioned previously, supports of the supports. Now, ultimately, if some of these characters had a little or a few less weaknesses, they would definitely be on the A tier. But one of the characters I want to address is, again, Specimen Says, because a lot of people are raving about him. But ultimately, just given how weak he is sometimes to either provoke or to reset, in other words, a lot of the S tier characters, it makes him a little more difficult to play. He is also a little bit weak, or he's definitely weak against stuff like Death Dealer Ray or against Briarwitch Iseria. Spectre Tenebria can sometimes get one-shot by his S2, but in general, that's an okay matchup for the Spectre. In general, though, I think he's still really good. If you want to put him at the bottom of A, I wouldn't really be upset. However, the rest of the characters, as you can see here, are kind of like playstyle rounder outers. That's like such a weird term to describe it, but you see it, right? You have the Astromancer Elena to kind of force a ban on 4th or 5th pick, or kind of like round out a Guild War team, alongside Ran. However, if you were to just pick, even if you were to pick someone like Astromancer Elena on 2, 3, 4, people would kind of like laugh at you a little bit, or they'd look a little weird at your draft because they're really punishable. And that's kind of the, I guess, like the tune of the rest of the characters as well. Can't really pick a character like Solitaria if you're prone to getting, like one shot by Dilibid or Lionheart Sermia or something later. And alternatively, if you have someone like, Desert Jewel Bazaar or Dark Corvus, sometimes the draft just doesn't really fit it. And you really need someone to draft no damage and then Dark Corvus is usable, or like several barriers and then DJB can be a little bit more usable as well. That being said, though, they're definitely not bad characters by any means. That would kind of be reserved for what I would describe the C tier, or like the coming in on like gear gapping or niche tier. Now, the thing about this tier is that characters like Closer Charles, yes, if you are a 310 Closer Charles, you've got your playstyle. Or if for some reason someone decides to just pick Aiden and nothing else, and there's no one to ever speed contest you, then by all means, if you just have the random gear on Closer Charles, I think he's great. I personally use Closer Charles a decent amount. However, I understand that it takes kind of a weird draft for someone to just let Closer Charles and, like, for instance, Commander Pavelin. So that's why he's in C tier. And the same kind of goes with the rest of these characters. Silverblade Araminta is by no means unusable. Like, I've definitely seen a lot of people win with her. But she's, again, kind of a 4th or 5th pick, and someone doesn't respect the way that you pick your 4th and 5th pick. And then all of a sudden, bing, bang, boom, like their whole team is stunned. There was no chance of them winning anyways. But again, there are other characters that will kind of do that. In other words, you know, a character maybe like Architect Leica, or maybe a Spez may seal the deal on 5 in place of, you know, Silverblade Araminta. However, she's here just because she's definitely not in the D tier category. And ultimately, to be clear, I'm not exactly sure what is available or what isn't available, but whichever characters are available on this list, this is how I would rate them, assuming that, you know, we have access to all the characters. That being said, though, Specimen says, or not Specimen says, ML Kairon, Twisted Eidolon Kairon, and Sylvan Sage, not really worth pulling for, guys. In all honesty, they need a little bit more love. If you love them as waifus or husbandos, by all means, don't let me or anyone else stop you. Go ahead, pull them. That's totally fine. Just in terms of what I've seen from play and how popular or how useful I've seen them, pretty low. Moving along, though, we have the final tier, which is the D tier, and these are the so giga whale, like, yes, okay, if you have spent $70,000, you can make these characters work, but otherwise, they're really niche and sometimes just backfire on you. And again, kind of rounding out the top of this list is Judge Kisei. Just don't do it, guys. In all honesty, I would like to dog on, or I'd love to, like, pile on or kind of bag some of the other characters for how, like, ridiculously, like, situational they are, but the honest to God truth is that Judge Kisei almost has glimmer of, like, almost like kind of has like a glimmer of hope for being usable, and then you pick her and then she doesn't land her debuff, and now you've just aggravated an entire counter team. It's not a good look. She in particular, in my opinion, has almost the same, you know, or almost has potential to be in the C tier. I kind of use her, or I've been trying to use her as kind of like an F opener, but up until recently, I've tried like a bunch of different builds for her. It just doesn't feel good. If Briarwitch Iseria is banned, there's like a very niche situation where they pick no openers whatsoever. They only have counter characters, and there's no Ed, and there's no designer Lilibet, and you can pick her. But, like, listen to what I just said, right? That being said, if you're gonna try and use her for, you know, arena cleaving or stuff like that, that's totally fine. And that kind of goes the same with Closer Charles and some of the other characters in the C tier. If it's a bunch of bot NPC characters, I'm sure you can win with, you know, these units. That's totally fine. For me, though, I consider her to be a little bit too niche and definitely not worth telling people to pull for. In terms of pulling for her, like, as, like, one of your custom Mystic characters, don't do it. And the rest of the characters, guys, I'm sure I don't need to explain it to you. But aside from being semi-cool in design, like, I kind of like Top Mono Luluka's design. And, of course, I love my boy Arby. But in terms of how good they are or what they're really used for, it's not worth it, guys. Anyways, though, that was kind of just a brief overview of, a brief overview of all the Moonlight characters that you can pick from the Custom Mystic selection. Again, I'll include the link for the Stove post about, I guess, like, what's available, what's not. I don't know how there's another typo. I'm assuming it's not going to be a typo, but, like, whoever is doing the intern work or the translation work for Smallgate is, like, going through it or something. I don't know, whatever intern it is, but, like, this is, I think, like, maybe the 3rd typo or translation issue that I've seen recently that Smallgate has just, like, I don't know, just flubbed. If it really is just the characters that you can pick within the last 6 months, I mean, I guess, like, Ludwig is great, and, like, Sharoon and Shu and, like, Abyssal Yufine are good. That's it, though, guys. I'm assuming that's not it, but for whatever the case is, whoever is doing the translating definitely needs to have, there needs to be a little bit more communication here, guys. I don't know what's going on. But anyways, that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much. Make sure to check out the rest of my socials. Make sure to like, comment, turn the notification bell, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed and learned something. Make sure to check out the rest of my socials, and Twitch and Twitter, etc. All that stuff. Sorry, I probably just repeated that. I'm running on no sleep. But I'm going to be playing, I don't know, some more games and stuff. I'll see you guys all next time. Have a good one. Adios. Good night. Goodbye. See you later. Smilegate stopped releasing at random times. Thank you. Bye-bye.